Beloved friends, today I speak to you of a law as ancient as the stars and as intimate as your own heartbeat. The law of manifestation, revealed not in noise or strain, but in quiet knowing. There is a miracle prepared for you, and it does not arrive by chance. It arrives by alignment. It arrives when your inner agreement matches God's abundant design. There is a revelation whispered in Psalm 112, a psalm not merely to be read, but to be lived. It speaks of a person who delights greatly in divine law, whose heart is fixed, trusting, fixed, not wavering, not begging, not fearing. This is the posture of the prosperous soul, and when the heart is fixed, the outer world must rearrange itself to comply. You see, prosperity is not something you chase, it is something you allow. Money, opportunity, favor, and what the world calls million-dollar miracles are obedient servants to consciousness. They move where belief makes room for them. They answer certainty, not desperation. Many pray for abundance while secretly rehearsing lack. They speak faith in public and doubt in private. But the universe, God's orderly system, responds to the dominant tone of your thought. What you consistently consent to inwardly must externalize outwardly. Psalm 112 tells us that wealth and riches are in the house of the righteous. Not maybe, are. This is not poetry, it is principle. The house represents consciousness. When righteousness, right thinking, dwells within you, riches must dwell there also. They cannot help it. It is law. Now listen carefully. Miracles do not come to convince you. They come because you are already convinced. When your heart is established, you do not ask, "Will it happen?" You say, "How beautifully it is unfolding." You do not rush the seed. You know the season. You do not shout at the door. You know you carry the key. This is what Hagen perceived so clearly, that faith is not effort, it is agreement. Faith does not strain. Faith rests. Faith knows. And knowing is the highest form of prayer. If you desire a million-dollar miracle, then begin by thinking million-dollar thoughts, thoughts of generosity, order, excellence, expectation. Money follows purpose, wealth follows value. When you decide to be a channel, supply rushes to fill the opening. The psalm says, "Unto the upright there ariseth light in the darkness." Notice, it arises. You do not create the light. You allow it to rise. Even when circumstances look dim, your certainty turns on illumination. Opportunities appear where others see obstacles. Doors open where others see walls. Fear is simply misplaced imagination. Replace it with holy expectancy. Expect good with the same intensity you once expected trouble. The mind does not discriminate. It multiplies what it entertains. I have seen again and again that the moment a person stops pleading and starts proclaiming, their affairs shift. Speak as one who knows the outcome. Declare as one who has read the final page. Say quietly within yourself, "This is working for my good," and the unseen forces rush to obey that command. Psalm 112 also says, "The righteous person is not afraid of evil tidings." Why? Because their heart is fixed. A fixed heart is anchored beyond circumstance. It is anchored in source. And when you are anchored in source, supply is not seasonal. It is constant. Do not measure your future by your past. That is a common error. The past is a classroom, not a prison. The moment you release it, you release new channels. Forgiveness of self and others is often the hidden key that unlocks financial flow. Clear the inner accounts, and the outer accounts respond. Your words are your wand. Speak life to your projects. Speak success to your plans. Speak increase to your giving. And speak calmly. Calm authority is irresistible. The universe responds to composure because composure is confidence. Now let me tell you something simple and powerful. God's supply is not running out. Ideas are not limited. Opportunities are not scarce. You are not late. You are not behind. You are exactly at the point where understanding is catching up with desire. Million-dollar miracles do not always arrive as checks. They arrive as ideas that mature into enterprises, connections that unlock markets, timing that saves years, wisdom that multiplies effort. Honor the form they take, and do not dismiss small beginnings. Great rivers start as quiet springs. Delight in the law, and the law delights to serve you. Keep your inner conversation clean. Speak only what you wish to see crystallized. If a thought does not serve your future, dismiss it politely and move on. You are the gatekeeper of your mind. And finally, rest. Rest in the assurance that what is divinely designed cannot miss you. What has your name on it will find you. You do not need to chase destiny. Destiny recognizes you by your faith. Set your heart, fix it, trust, and watch as light rises, wealth appears, and miracles, yes, million-dollar miracles, unfold as naturally as dawn. Prosperity is never born out of panic, pressure, or restless striving. It flows from a heart that has come to rest in certainty. When the heart is fixed, as Psalm 112 reveals, it is not tossed about by appearances, delays, or temporary contradictions. A fixed heart does not wake up every morning asking, "Will it work?" or "What if it fails?" It wakes up with an inner agreement already signed, sealed, and settled. This is where true increase begins, not in the hands, not in the hustle, but in the inner posture of trust. Desperation sends a mixed signal to life. It says, "I want, but I don't believe." And the unseen forces of order cannot respond to confusion. But a settled heart speaks one language only, and that language is expectation. When you no longer argue with your good, when you stop trying to convince God, the universe, or yourself, something profound happens. Resistance dissolves. You move from pushing doors to watching them open. A fixed heart is calm, and calm is power. It does not rush outcomes because it knows timing is intelligent. It does not envy others because it knows supply is personal. It does not fear loss because it understands that source is infinite. This kind of inner stability becomes magnetic. Opportunities begin to seek you out. People trust you more. Favor rests on you more easily. Ideas arrive fully formed instead of half-baked. Even money recognizes this state, because money is obedient to confidence and clarity. You see, effort without alignment drains, but effort with alignment multiplies. When your heart is fixed, action becomes inspired instead of forced. You do the right thing at the right time without exhausting yourself. You stop scattering energy and start directing it. Many people work hard, pray hard, and hope hard, yet remain stuck because their hearts are secretly rehearsing fear, fear of not having enough, fear of being too late, fear of being disappointed again. But the moment the heart decides, "I am safe in abundance," the struggle ends. Faith is not loud, it is settled. It does not shout to be heard, it knows it has already been answered. This inner knowing sends a clear command to life: arrange, align, and deliver. Even setbacks lose their power because the fixed heart interprets them correctly, not as punishment, but as redirection. What once would have shaken you now strengthens you. What once would have stopped you now positions you. This is why prosperity follows trust and not tension. Tension blocks flow, but trust creates channels. When you stop gripping the outcome, your hands are finally free to receive it. A fixed heart is not passive, it is authoritative. It does not wait helplessly, it waits confidently. It understands that divine order cannot fail, that what is meant to prosper must prosper, and that delay is never denial. In this state, you no longer chase success, you expect it. And expectation is the silent invitation that abundance cannot refuse. Right thinking is not positive thinking in the shallow sense. It is alignment with divine order. Psalm 112 reveals a profound truth when it declares that wealth and riches are in the house of the righteous, and this house is not made of bricks and walls, but of consciousness. Your mind is the dwelling place of your future, and whatever is permitted to live there must eventually take form in the outer world. When thought is disciplined, harmonious, and rooted in trust, life mirrors that order back to you as opportunity, provision, and increase. Many people desire abundance, yet they unknowingly entertain thoughts that contradict it, thoughts of limitation, unworthiness, comparison, or fear. These thoughts quietly cancel the good they are asking for. Right thinking means thinking in agreement with truth, not with appearances. It means refusing to let temporary lack define permanent law. It means understanding that supply is not created by circumstances, but revealed by consciousness. When the inner atmosphere is prosperous, outer conditions cannot remain barren for long. Thought is creative, and it is always at work, whether you direct it or not. If you allow it to wander into worry, it will build more reasons to worry. If you guide it into expectation, it will construct pathways for fulfillment. This is not imagination at play, it is principle in motion. The righteous mind, as described in the Psalm, delights in law. It delights in order, clarity, and truth. Such a mind does not resist abundance, it makes room for it, and whatever you make room for must enter. When your thinking changes from "I hope" to "I know," from "someday" to "now unfolding," from "why not me" to "of course it includes me," you shift the very foundation upon which your life is built. Right thinking does not deny challenges, it interprets them correctly. It does not say, "This is impossible," but rather, "This is rearranging." It does not say, "I lack," but "I am in transition." In this way, the mind becomes a faithful steward instead of a fearful guard. Wealth, like water, flows where there is openness and direction. A cramped, conflicted mind cannot hold it, but a spacious, ordered mind welcomes it. This is why generosity of thought precedes generosity of form. When you think well of life, life thinks well of you. When you bless instead of begrudge, you align with increase. When you expect good outcomes, you train your perception to notice openings others overlook. Ideas rise, intuition sharpens, timing improves. You begin to act with precision rather than panic. Even your speech changes. It becomes cleaner, calmer, and more decisive. And speech, born of thought, carries creative authority. The house of the righteous is furnished with confidence, patience, and expectancy, and riches naturally feel at home there. They do not enter as strangers, they enter as companions. This is the quiet power of right thinking. It does not force results, yet results follow it unfailingly. When your inner world is aligned with truth, your outer world has no choice but to comply. Words are not merely sounds carried by breath. They are instruments of direction, shaping outcomes long before results appear. Every spoken sentence sets something in motion because speech is thought released with authority. When words are spoken repeatedly, calmly, and with conviction, they cease to be wishes and become commands. This is why miracles respond not to frantic declarations, but to settled speech. Life does not obey volume, it obeys certainty. Many people speak about what they fear more fluently than what they desire, and then wonder why their circumstances echo their worries. Speech is always creative, never neutral. Each word either builds or dismantles, opens or closes, attracts or repels. When you speak from a place of confidence, your words carry weight. They move ahead of you, preparing conditions, aligning people, adjusting timing. This is not superstition. It is the natural response of order to instruction. The unseen listens closely to what you consistently affirm. If you continually describe struggle, you authorize struggle. If you continually describe success, you authorize success. The key lies in consistency and tone. Calm words spoken regularly are more powerful than emotional declarations spoken occasionally. When you say quietly, "This works in my favor," you set a law in motion. When you say, "I always land on my feet," life begins to prove you right. When you declare, "Supply meets me at the point of need," you give direction to forces already waiting to serve. Words spoken in fear scatter energy. Words spoken in faith gather it. This is why disciplined speech is essential. It is not about pretending or denying reality. It is about naming reality before it appears. Every visible outcome once existed as an invisible statement. Even doubt is a confession, and it produces accordingly. When you speak outcomes instead of obstacles, you interrupt old patterns. You refuse to rehearse defeat. You train your mind and your environment to expect resolution. Over time, this expectation becomes natural, and what is natural manifests effortlessly. Speech also shapes self-image. When you consistently speak well of yourself and your future, you expand your sense of what is possible. You stop shrinking in conversation. You stop apologizing for ambition. You stop explaining your faith. This inner shift is reflected outwardly in how others respond to you. People trust your words because you trust them first. Opportunities arise because your speech signals readiness. Even silence, when filled with certainty, becomes powerful. You no longer complain to release tension. You proclaim to establish order. This does not mean you never feel doubt. It means you do not give doubt a microphone. You choose your words deliberately, knowing they will return to you multiplied. Speech is a seed, and seeds always grow after their kind. Speak abundance, and abundance multiplies. Speak order, and confusion dissolves. Speak peace, and decisions become clearer. Over time, your life becomes an echo of your declarations. What you once hoped for begins to feel inevitable. This is the quiet authority of spoken faith. It does not argue with reality, it instructs it. When words are aligned with trust, they activate unseen cooperation, and miracles unfold not as interruptions, but as confirmations of what was already spoken into law. Rest is often misunderstood as inactivity, yet in the realm of faith, it is the highest form of action. True rest is not giving up, it is giving over. It is the quiet confidence that the work is already in motion, even when the evidence has not yet appeared. When you rest inwardly, you stop interfering with the natural intelligence that knows how to bring things together better than your anxious planning ever could. Strain creates friction, and friction delays flow. But rest creates space, and space allows solutions to enter. This is why the greatest breakthroughs often arrive after a person has stopped forcing an outcome. They let go, not because they stopped believing, but because they believed fully. Faith that rests is faith that trusts the process. It understands that divine timing is not random, it is precise. When you are at rest, your perception sharpens. You notice the right conversation, the right idea, the right moment to act. You are no longer driven by urgency, but guided by intuition. This is where million-dollar miracles are born, not from exhaustion, but from alignment. Many people block their own good by overworking the mind, replaying scenarios, and demanding immediate results. In doing so, they signal doubt rather than confidence. Rest, on the other hand, sends a clear message to life. I know this is handled. And life responds to that knowing. In rest, you stop micromanaging the outcome and allow order to do its work. Ideas arrive gently instead of through pressure. Opportunities come naturally instead of through chasing. Even effort becomes lighter because it is inspired rather than driven by fear. Rest also dissolves resistance. When you are tense, you subconsciously push against what you want, afraid of disappointment. But when you rest, you remove that barrier. You allow good to approach you without interrogation. This state of allowing is magnetic. It attracts cooperation, timing, and favor. People sense it. Situations respond to it. Even challenges soften in its presence. Rest is not passive waiting. It is active trust. It is the decision to stop arguing with the promise and start agreeing with it. In this state, patience is not painful. It is peaceful. You are not counting days. You are counting on law. You move through life with an inner assurance that nothing can miss you. What is meant for you is already en route. Rest also restores clarity. When the mind is quiet, guidance becomes audible. You know when to act and when to pause. You stop making rushed decisions that cost time and energy. Instead, you make precise moves that yield multiplied results. This is why rest unlocks increase. It aligns you with efficiency instead of effort, with wisdom instead of worry, with flow instead of force. Million-dollar miracles are not always dramatic. They are often the result of one well-timed decision, one inspired idea, one peaceful yes spoken at the right moment. Rest positions you to recognize these moments. It keeps you receptive. It keeps you steady. And in that steadiness, life delivers what strain never could. When you rest, you are not stepping back from your good. You are making room for it to arrive.